Howdy folks, I'm the Southern Scientist. Today we're going to be talking about something that I find super interesting, and that is, where did we come from? I'm going to talk about somebody that we all know and hold near and dear to our hearts. Someone that has shaped the lives of millions of people across the world. Of course, I'm talking about everybody's favorite nature documentary character, SpongeBob SquarePants. Who is SpongeBob SquarePants? Well, aside from being the world's greatest fry cook, SpongeBob SquarePants is a sponge. He's not just a dish sponge. He's not something that you just get out of the sink to wash your dirt and grime off your plate after dinner. He's something far more magnificent. He's a marine sponge. Marine sponges are incredible. You know why? They don't move after their larval stage. They're stationary. They don't have a specific way of growing. These guys can grow in any shape or form that they see fit. They don't have 3, not 2, not 1, but 0 tissue layers inside their body.
Instead of tissue layers, they're made up of specialized cells, like amoebocytes, choanocytes, and porocytes. These specialized cells do everything that they need. I mean, choanocytes literally just filter water all day just to get food.
Doesn't it sound like the dream? It's been argued that these animals were actually the first multicellular animals to exist. These are the most basal animals. A basal animal is pretty much just how it sounds. It's an animal that doesn't show very many derived traits. A basal animal is something that you would see at the very bottom of the phylogenetic tree. It makes up the base because it's not very related to anything else. Let's talk about another basic animal, jellyfish. Jellyfish are also very basic. Mind you, they have 2 tissue layers. There are 2 tissue layers within a jellyfish, and they have specialized cells used for stinging called nematocysts, but they have an open circulatory system. They don't have a brain. They're just one body cavity, and they're a gelatinous mix that just floats through the water. So, I mean, that's a pretty basic animal too. Another example of a basic animal are the comb jellyfish, and while their name implies that they are related to jellyfish, they're actually not. The only thing that seems relatively similar is the fact they're another gelatinous mixture of proteins floating through the water. But these guys are actually quite remarkable, considering they have a complete digestive system, while jellyfish have an incomplete one. Jellyfish have one entrance where their mouth is, and their waste comes out the same spot. Comb jellyfish don't have that. They have an entrance and an exit for their nutrients and their waste. And taking it back to the sponges, we said that the sponges were the most basic. They don't have any specialized traits like that. They don't have a circulatory system. They don't have a digestive system at all. So how could ctenophores possibly be the most basic animal? Well, with the ctenophore first hypothesis, it means that ctenophores evolved first. That was it. Simply, they evolved first. Sponges evolved after them. But how does that make sense? To go backwards to something that is primitive? It doesn't, right? It's actually seen quite frequently, and a lot of people know of organisms that have undergone this change before. Good example, the chondrichthyans, the sharks, skates, rays, and chimeras. They're relatives in the evolutionary phylogenetic tree. These guys' common ancestor were bony. They had bones. Well, guess what? Chondrichthyans don't have bones. None of them do. Now, why would the sharks go ahead and lose the bone that they had? I mean, we have it, and it works great for us. Sharks, stingrays, all those guys, they live in water. They don't need strong, rigid support like we do on land, where we're, subject to the forces of gravity all the time. Chondrichthyans, they don't have to deal with that. They need to deal with being able to move through water. And what makes it super easy to move through water is being flexible, having a lot of power. These sharks are apex predators. Having bone being rigid and stiff and not being able to move around a lot, that doesn't work for them. It doesn't work well for them. So what do? They found it easier to just lose the hard stuff. I mean, you'll see videos of fishermen catch sharks and they hang them by the tail And those sharks can wrap around and actually bite the fisherman. You wouldn't be able to do that if somebody were holding you by your legs. There's no way you'd be able to wrap around and get somebody on the hand. No way. Sharks can do it though, because they're so flexible because of that cartilage. I mean, look at your bone. I mean, aside from the fact that if I were to break my arm, obviously I'd be able to move it. I can't move my bone here. Like, I can't do it. My bone's not moving. It's staying still. My arm, this part doesn't move. If you had a shark, it'd be able to bend and it'd be able to constrict and turn this whole part of their segment of their body because it's cartilage. It's meant to move like that. I mean, your ears do it. Your ears can bend and move. Your nose can do it. It's a little more tough here. It's the whole point is to be flexible so you can move and control it easier. And bone simply didn't work for sharks. So they lost it. And it took a very, very long time to evolve that. But losing their bone and evolving cartilage again, it's actually a derived trait for them. So maybe the sponges losing those specialized tissues is also just another derived trait. At the University of Tampa, I was privileged enough to take a class with Dr. Michael Middlebrooks. This class was marine invertebrate zoology. We were learning about what the most basic animal is. What is the most basal animal? Well, obviously, the strong hypothesis for sponges being the most basal was still the running, but there was recent evidence that ctenophores were in fact the most basal animal, and that sponges did secondarily lose it. I thought it was incredible when we got to class, and Dr. Middlebrooks talked to us and just said, hey guys, we've got some huge scientific news for y'all. There was a paper recently published, how sponges are in fact the most basal animal, and he showed us the paper. Sure enough, it had support that sponges were, once again, the most basal animal on Earth. And come on, like, this feels awesome. Because I'm thinking, I'm related to SpongeBob now. That sounds like peak to me. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be more related to SpongeBob than a little gelatinous Bob. Like, when I first heard about this went way over my head. I had no clue what was going on. But like slowly, I started to really, really appreciate this subject, and it actually inspired me to make this video. I'm just talking about how sponges are the most basal animal. And instead of being this all thought out video about sponges and having a whole bunch of really cool footage of them, I'm sat here making this. This paper I was trying to find it while researching for this video, and I couldn't. Where did it go? I couldn't find it whatsoever. To my surprise, I actually had to search up sponges are more basal than ctenophores. Paper published fall 2025. That is exactly what I had to search up in order to find this paper. And I actually found it. I finally found it. But in bright, bold, all caps letters, when I found this paper, what did it say? Retracted. This paper doesn't exist anymore. And I'm just thinking, my video's gone. I can't do this anymore. But wait, it's about to get crazy. I find out that this paper is retracted. I'm like, okay, now I gotta figure out why this paper got retracted, because this is my entire video now gone down the dumpster.
This all happened when a professor from Yale actually commented in an e-letter on the original paper that was published by Dr. Steenwick and Dr. King from the University of California at Berkeley. They were both studying something very similar, except from two opposite sides of the spectrum.
This other professor, Dr. Dunn, he was who first proposed that ctenophores are the most basal animal instead. And so when he saw a paper about sponges being the most basal animal, obviously he took it personally, and he was willing to die on that hill. So he responded to this new sponge paper through an e-letter stating,
Steinwick and King concluded that their integrative phylogenomics approach provided compelling evidence for the sponge sister hypothesis. This is essentially saying that sponges are more basal. And here we actually note several problems that compromise their conclusions. Obviously, with an accusation like this, Dr. Dunn and his colleagues had to have some sort of evidence to prove that the research being performed was actually not up to par. So, what did they do? Well, they did what any scientific researcher should. They provided the receipts. They put all of the material, all of the reasoning behind why they say that Dr. King and Dr. Steenwick were actually falsifying their reports, or knowingly or not. I doubt that they were doing it knowingly because of the way that the situation ended, but they provided all the evidence. in a GitHub link that I'm actually going to provide in the description below that I just thought was, super cool. You can see all the evidence for yourself and then all the explanations for why things didn't go quite the way that Dr. Steenwick and Dr. King expected to.
This guy didn't just say you were wrong. He said, you're wrong, and here are the receipts, and gave everybody the receipts. Obviously, as a scientific researcher, you have to have evidence behind that. But I could just think, could you imagine being a little kid and just saying, nuh-uh, you're wrong. No, I'm right, you're wrong. And finally having the evidence just be like, here's a receipt of you saying some really stupid stuff right here. Yeah, I mean, it's right there. It's crazy. Let me clarify real quick. I'm totally exaggerating this. Obviously, both of these groups of authors, they're all very, very well respected within their fields. In no way is this video supposed to portray them as enemies and saying that they did not act childish whatsoever. This is what happens every single day in the scientific community. I just find it amusing. The fact that Dr. King and Dr. Steenwick put so much effort into this research. And obviously I don't find it amusing that they wasted their time, but I just find it interesting and amusing that they did all that work and all one professor had to do was just say, no, you're wrong. I kind of have to pivot my video. It's no longer, what's the most basal animal on Earth? This is now, scientific ethics. We're talking about papers being published and retracted. I mean, I think it's so important because had Dr. Dunn not meticulously torn apart this scientific paper that I thought was so interesting and cool, that information would still be out there and it would be misinforming the public. Dr. Dunn was going off and saying, so you're making all these claims and you're providing all of these figures and these phylogenetic trees. He just goes, so you made a phylogenetic tree, doesn't actually support your evidence, it supports mine, which is hilarious to me. Imagine saying, the grass is blue, and here's a picture of it. And you show the person a picture of the grass, and it's green, and your argument was that the grass is green. You're like, you just said the grass is blue, but you showed me a picture that the grass is actually green, and you say it supports you? And they're like, Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? Okay, well, had Dr. Dunn not torn this paper apart, that false information would be just out there, out in the ether for people like me and other people, other professors to just get a hold of and just be like, yeah, this supports our idea. But it really doesn't. It's totally not discrediting the extremely important, difficult work performed by Dr. Steinwick and Dr. King. Because, had they not done this research topic, other researchers might not have been interested. But now that there's some, hubbub about it, some hoopla, it gets people intrigued. It sure got me intrigued. I'm super tied into this now, and I think it's awesome. Because in science, there's no right or wrong. There's just, it worked or it didn't. And their hypothesis just didn't work this time. So what they could do is do it all again. And if their scientific methods are accurate and work properly this time, their publishings could change everything once again. I think it's also incredibly important to acknowledge the fact that Dr. King and Dr. Steenwick actually asked to retract their paper and even thanked Dr. Dunn and his colleagues for pointing out their error. And they go down so humbly and accept the errors that some people would call and consider failure. It's extremely admirable. And obviously more of this attitude is needed among the scientific community. Not just the scientific community, but important for humanity as a whole. Let's start off as a video to talk about, my favorite character in the entire world. We're talking about scientific papers and ethics. Sometimes things don't go your way in life, but you just gotta pick yourself back up and just admit it. Just admit when you're wrong, admit when you messed up. The world didn't end. You can pick yourself right back up, and I guarantee you Dr. King and Dr. Steenwick did not take that loss as a loss. And they're just like, wow, that really stinks. All that work just for it to be discredited. But guess what? They're probably back at it right again, doing the same work and working to make it better, so that science and the scientific community as a whole can improve. This has been The Southern Scientist. Thank you.